Our next talk is a panel of 3 talking about constitutional law. So they're just going to have an organic synergy type of conversation with perhaps some Q&A at the end if they have time. So I want to introduce our 3 speakers for the next segment. We'll be talking until 12:15, and then we'll have lunch. More conversation during lunch, please. I've set up the whole conference center, so there's tables throughout, so we can all mingle and talk. All right, our first speaker today is Leah, also known as Urban Night Girl. Leah is a community advocate, dedicated to strengthening families in need, especially those with children who are put in the foster system. Her story is fascinating. Many of you saw the interview I did with her. And she's a student of constitutional law, so she'll be talking about what she's done, her experiences. You're going to benefit greatly from what you listen to today. Our second speaker is Johnny Wicklander. Johnny is a father whose family is a victim of Title IV federal incentivization to remove children from good homes. That alone should make you want to listen to him. He's an advocate and on a mission for family and governmental law reform. Okay, our last speaker with this panel is Reid. Jerry arrived here. He had great trouble getting here. And I'm very honored to have you, Jerry. Jerry is a dedicated student of constitutional law with a passion for helping others better understand the principles that shape our rights, liberties, and systems of government. And he will be joining the speakers to talk about constitutional law. Please join me in welcoming our 3 speakers. Thank you all.
Check, check. We are live.
Check, check.
We are.
Check.
Hi.
How's everybody doing? Good? Good? Very good. I'm Johnny Wicks, or John Wicklander.
I'm Leah. I go by Urban Night Girl in my Telegram channel and Instagram.
And I'm Reid. Nice to meet you all. How y'all doing today?
Jerry, lead the way. Talk to us.
Okay. I guess we can kick this thing off with a very good question.
Wait a second. Just one second.
Are you the first one?
No. I actually just wanted to start in prayer, if that's okay.
Please do.
We made an agreement between the 3 of us today that we were just going to be led by the Holy Spirit. So I just want to, in this moment, take the time to acknowledge that we have a creator that has guided each and every one of us to the place that we're in. And I am in just total gratitude and surrender to the will of our creator so that we can bring forth this new, what I call heaven on earth. So I just say before you, creator of all living things, I just thank you for this day. I thank you that whatever we speak of today is spirit-led, that all the truth that is required to come out in this moment in time will reach the ears of whoever needs to hear what we have to say. We're not here with an agenda. We're here with the truth, and we're here to bring our children home. And so with saying that, thank you for everything that's going to come from this moment forward, and so be it.
That's very nice. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm the girl.
What a great way to lead.
Well, my intentions we have to have pure intentions with what we're doing, and our children, everything about our children as a mother and a grandmother, and me, Ma, our priority is to bring them home for God. And so we work for God at all times. And so we have to, you know me, I'm going to cry. Yes. I wore waterproof mascara today.
We can give you
that's great, because that's a great lead into what I was going to say about everybody knows we have a Constitution. We're Americans, the United States of America. We pledge allegiance to our flag because we're free, and we love that. What is constitutional law? You know we have a Constitution. You know about it. But do you know truly what it is and why our forefathers wrote it? The Constitution is not a document that gives us anything. We do not derive authority from the Constitution. The Constitution derives its acknowledgement of our authority. The Constitution was written by our forefathers to acknowledge that we are of the land. And biblically, we were made of the land. And the law comes from the Creator that made us from that land. So they wrote it in a document to acknowledge our rights we own that were given to us by Yahuwah. And only He has authority over us. Anything on this land, we have been given dominion and we have the authority of. The Bill of Rights. Our human rights, because we live, we breathe, we are of the land, and we are of the body. So they wrote it in a document for the entire world to see when they formed this country, to acknowledge that we are free and we own the right to be it. That is the essence of constitutional law. So why is that so important? They derived their understanding of who we are in our belief in our following and service to Yahuwah, the great I Am, God. And we serve Him in His truth, and we abide by His laws, the Ten Commandments. So they wrote down the Bill of Rights. Thou shalt not lie, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not bear false witness. These fundamental truths that we know as a people from the land, of the land, in service to Yahuwah, that is righteous. And that's where the constitutional law is derived from. So today we're running into issues to where we're waking up to the understanding that we have been suppressed by admiralty laws, maritime laws, equity laws, and all these other things that are trying to supersede our authority in our service to Yahuwah and the righteousness of who we are under our Constitution, who we are as a people in this land. And we must stop this blatant abuse and usurpation to the service to Yahuwah. And only we, the people, can rise up and stop this, because we are the authority that serves Yahuwah to do it.
I think that's where Johnny and I then, that foundational part is how it empowers Johnny and I to do the things that we do. Would you agree?
Oh, yeah.
Because,
100%.
yeah. Do you
Should we let everybody know how we met, how we all met?
Yeah, maybe.
Please.
Well, kind of a story. I was out in, where was I? I was in North Carolina, and Jerry reached out and he needed a little help with a gentleman. We won't say his name, but he needed a little help. So I just worked him up a quick packet on how he can fight the injustice he's dealing with. And then, so I flew all the way to Minnesota, which is my home state. And I jumped in my vehicle, which had only first and third gear. And I blew up my engine about Sioux Falls, but I was headed out to the Black Hills, not knowing these two individuals too well. But we had spoke a few times. I had spoken with Jerry on the phone. Never met you. But when we got there, we kind of realized why the big draw of why I was headed out there. Seems to be a supernatural entity that brought us all together, and the type of people that were out there at the time. Plus, it was July 4th and a big shindig up in there, in Mount Rushmore.
Yeah.
We saw a little something interesting on the mountain that day. Yeah, a little bit. But then Jerry and I rode back with Jerry down to Missouri because I've been on the road for about 3 months. I'm trying to educate people on what's going on with the federal incentivization behind Title IV. Title IV-D specifically relates to child support, aggressive child support collections. And then Title IV-E is what affected my family. And that's the federal incentivization to remove children and put them into foster care. Fortunately for me, Mom and I were not fighting each other, which we see a lot in family law. So I fortunately didn't have to deal with that, but I definitely saw what's going on and the numbers that are associated with that. About 700 kids are removed every day from loving homes, and they make a lot of money enforcing these. They're not even laws. That's why they have federal incentivization in order to persuade individuals to follow suit with Title IV. But when I met these guys, everything seemed to, I don't know,
Well,
show
and how
itself.
I got there, too, I had been at a conference in New York and had met a bunch of people in New York, and then flew back to Arizona from New York and had another meeting in Sedona. And then the people from New York decided that we needed, a couple of my girlfriends and I needed to be on this trip to South Dakota. So he just called us up and said, you have this much money, get to South Dakota, period. And when I got there, everything was paid for, everything was set up, and it was just a divine appointment to meet everybody. And I work for clients, so my role has been an on-the-job training role. I am still in school. I do not know everything. I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough to cause some problems. And so as I was on this education, they flew me there and found out that partially what I do is I represent clients behind the scenes. I work with what I consider a ghostwriter. We travel around the country and we serve on what's considered the shadow docket for people behind the scenes. So we take their judicial story and all the constitutional violations and we try to separate them out. Then we can work against the system because we know what they're doing is illegal constitutionally, and then she writes the reverse of that, and then I travel and serve for the clients, because in constitutional law you can't serve the way a bar attorney does. You can't put it through email. You have no access to the courts whatsoever. So they require you to travel in person and serve whoever you need to serve. And most of the time it doesn't get where it needs to go. So we're being blocked every step of the way. So anyhow, I was given the gift of this, and then I met these two, and I'm like, more people who do. I do it by myself, I travel alone most of the time, and he was traveling alone. We live out of our cars. Me less
When
than
I had a
anybody.
car.
I don't like
Yeah,
living
you
out
don't
of
have
my
a
car.
car.
I'll do it, but I don't like it. So anyway, we came together and we decided we were going to travel and we were going to start sharing and teaching people what we do, why we do it, how we do it, and as we're learning on the go. I mean, I learn every court case, go to Denver, go here, go to the Supreme Court. I'm on a education as I work for we the people. And just for an FYI, all of us are pro bono. None of us, we do not take money. So, or we haven't been offered any.
I would love to take.
We've never been offered any money.
Wait a minute.
So I mean,
I'm actually not sure how I'm going to get out of Florida, to be honest with you.
yeah. So we're kind of at our end with all that. We've expended our resources, and so now we're at the end of our cases, looking for more support, time, talents, and treasures. Truly, just give us a place to lay our head and some food in our bellies and gas in our cars, and we can get where we need to go. But it's
We're
running
making
tight.
headway.
I'm almost on 2 years now, pro bono by myself. So
But we're making headway.
yeah, we are
People are
making
beginning to hear.
major headway. Major headway. Yeah. I wish I could tell you I do work a little bit in what's called trust law, where you're working on international non-negotiable instruments and chambers. It's a pretty big deal. It doesn't get done. You usually die or get arrested and put in federal prison for life. I have had neither happened to me. And I have been working on perfected claims in the courts. So it's another part of the law that most people don't know. So we have made major headway. So
Yeah.
I'm still sitting here,
We're still here.
and we're still here.
So what they're actually leading into, it's really hard to understand because we've been indoctrinated as a nation by the control of the British Attorney Accredited Registration and the bar. And it's acting as a fourth branch of government. They have no authority. There's an executive branch, a judicial branch, and a legislative branch. And this goes back to constitutional law. The legislation is elected by we the people. In individual states, they get representatives and senators that represent us in legislation in Congress. They filibuster, they write bills, and the whole process is set up for we the people to design the legislative laws under Constitution, which get established into acts and bills and all these things. So what they're dealing with is individual states have taken their authority beyond the constitutional process. And these judges, who are not really judges, they are adjudicators for a corporation. They, under admiralty and maritime laws, in the states, say that in the states, the state law is. But if the state law doesn't comply with the constitutional law, then it's null and void. And that's derivative of Marbury versus Madison in 1803, where the Supreme Court ruled that no state shall make a law unless upon agreement by the United States Constitution, meaning no state can supersede the law of the supremacy of the Constitution. So what we're dealing with this Title 4B and these state laws in the CPS administrative offices, administrative or admiralty laws, they're taking a process and they're going to families and they're saying, well, we don't think you're properly caring for your child. They go to a state judge and they take authority over that family and they take and remove their children.
Ex parte.
Yeah.
So
Ex parte is where it's one side of the fence, basically. So one party is privy to that, so the other party is not. So it's a 72-hour ex parte meeting that they have to have based on the state law or how it's interpreted for Title IV funding.
I can tell a story for the clients that I have. If you want to close your eyes and listen to the story, or just get in a space where I want you to put yourself in my parents' role, and this case is 4 generations. So starting with the grandmother, the mother, the father, and his 7 children have been targeted for 4 generations in 4 states. So I have documents in 4 different states for this particular family. So it's going to be an extreme story. So this isn't everybody's case, but it is very important. And I know that God brought this to me because of the severity of the generational attack on this particular family that is an epidemic, by the way. This is not peculiar to this family, sadly. I wish I could say that this extreme case is the worst of the worst and you'll never see this again. It's actually an unfortunate truth all over this world. So I have a homestead family. They live off-grid to the extreme. So as you can imagine, they don't live like us. They don't dress like us. They don't, their hygiene is not the same as us. No judgment either way. They live off-grid. They have animals and they want to be farmers. They just want to grow their own crops, have their, beehives and do their thing. So their resources are limited, their funds are limited. They're not a wealthy family by any means, but highly wealthy in love and commitment to their children. This is a couple who have been targeted their entire lives. They met when they were 6 years old, and they are still together to this day. There's a lot of trauma in between that story. they're close to 40 now. They have made many choices that all of us would maybe look at and say that that's not how we would live our lives, nor the choices that we've made. Every one of us have done things that, would challenge our integrity and our character. So with no judgment, this family is equal to us. They've made decisions that have put them in situations that have brought them to this place. However, in the last 22 months, working with a highly, highly educated constitutional law consultant who is brilliant beyond, we have been able to keep the case intact where not one time ever has there been any reason to take these children from these parents, and I have been able to participate in stopping an adoption 5 times. So I digress. I'll go back to how this started. This family decided to go on a vacation due to the need to visit a family member. Their grandmother was very ill in another state. So they traveled from Arizona during the holidays to meet their mother and try to help her. It's obviously, and they brought 5 of their 7 children with them. And because 2 had already been taken, so we'll just leave it at that. But 2 had already been taken, so they had their 5. They get there. Grandma's much sicker than they had anticipated, and so there's offers in the state of Nevada to get a little bit of assistance for housing. They reached out in an emergency. We want to be here for Grandma. Everything that ensued after that was, social services show up, the police show up. They have to bring in the paramedics to check on all the children. And all they're looking for is a little bit of housing so they can get through the holidays to see Grandma at the hospital. That's all they looked for. So the state of Nevada has decided that with disheveled hair, dirty feet, and lack of resources, because they live in another state, they, with armed police officers, ripped 5 children, the youngest being a 10-month-old nursing infant, all the way to a 13-year-old child, all at a hotel, instead of saying to them, so sorry, we have no resources for you, go home. Go home to Arizona, where you're from. We can't help you in the state of Nevada. Unfortunately, the state of Nevada decided to take all 5 children, which then the impression was if you leave the state, now you have abandoned your family. So we now have a mom and a dad with a very sick grandmother, 2 of the family dogs, and they are required to stay in a state that they don't live in and have 0 resources and are not now allowed to go home. What would you do? What would you do? Who would you call? Who would you lean on? Who would be by your side? Who would stand next to you? Who would hold your hand for 22 months and make sure that you had somewhere to be? Because if you missed 1 visit, 2 visits, 3 visits, if you missed a therapy appointment, if you missed a filing, if you missed a court hearing, your 5 children are now, you'll never see them again. Now your homestead, what do you do with your homestead? You have 40 acres, campers, goats, chickens, everything is at home. And now you are kidnapped, essentially, into another state, and you have nothing and no one. This is the family that God brought to me 22 months ago. So
22 months you've been working on that case?
that one family. I have I have many, many other cases I have been a part of. Don't misunderstand.
What have you sacrificed? We tend, doing what we do, especially as a 100% volunteer advocate, no good deed goes unpunished. We definitely find salvation through suffrage, and we find suffrage through service to others. Tends to be what we tend to do, and the sacrifices that we have are immense.
Great.
In fact, every time we go somewhere new, I have less stuff to bring. Yeah.
It's an honor, I have to tell you. It's a humbling honor to know that God's called you to do something greater than yourself, and that he's going to give you the strength and the resources and the love and a support system that you were not prepared for. Did I lose it all? Maybe. But what did I gain? I'm a grandmother. I get to call 8 children. I get to be a part of have been a part of raising 8 children, and I've been a part of being a witness to, through a blended family, 10 grandchildren. I have my 10th grandchild on the way. So I fight for them. I fight for my own family. I don't have a child in child protective services like this gentleman does and all the other people around me, but I have a lot at stake. And I got a lot of babies to stand for. And so I have stepped out of my personal life, if you want to call it that. I have had to sell my home and spend my resources that God provided for me for this mission. And it's a beautiful family. And the love that this family still holds tight to fight for these children is beyond a love that I've been capable of seeing in a traditional life. It usually tears you apart. The parents can't make it. You can't take 7 children from somebody and destroy their entire lives. The parents are still standing, although their health is, you can imagine how their health is not up to speed. So we work in a lot of areas, a lot of healing. While we work, we have to do a lot of healing along the way, because the trauma of a no, every time you think you're winning in court, and you have the documents and you've been lawful and legal and you've done everything and you've missed nothing, and they still slam the door in your face, the pain of that is truly a broken heart, and it's a broken heart syndrome. And the mother is on oxygen currently. They are hanging on. They're hanging on. So.
Yeah, unfortunately, too, these stories they're not rare at all. Every day, socials are blowing up with victims, and it's just increasing. Seems to be leaching off into the outer islands. I have a few contacts in Puerto Rico, and it's exploding there. The native communities, it's all leaching into there. Any way they can make a buck off these families, they do, and it's highly unfortunate, and it's extremely destructive.
So if I might interject in here, the audience is probably thinking, why? Why would the governments come in and want to take your children? And the reason for this is because they're overriding and superseding constitutionally protections, the laws of the Constitution, and they're writing individually the laws of the CPS and these organizations in the states. And one state over here says we do it this way over here. Another state says we do it this way over here. We have an overlying governmental law of the operation of CPS, but individual states do it the way they choose. And you might wonder why. Why would they want to come in and take children away from parents? The problem is CPS only gets funding from subsidy of federal funding if they remove a child under long term, either in foster or under an adoption type situation. Then they get government grant funding to fund the individual CPSs in the states. And how are we going to tie this all back into the importance of constitutional law? In the states, they operate under what is known as equity law in family courts. And unfortunately, these equity laws in the individual states pretty much give the judges free discretion to do whatever they want. So as Leah said, you can do everything to their rules. It's important. I want the term rules. I'll get back to that in a minute. You can do every single thing under the rules they require of you as a parent in a state. As soon as they decide under this equity ruling and discretion that that's not what they want, they sign the paper and do what they want, and they take your children. And you can't beat them in a system like this. If they want your children, they'll take them, and they get paid to do it. And it is a total abomination to the constitutional laws of the supremacy of the land. You have the right to be secure in your person and property. That is not something the state can take from you, but they are. By extension, your person in this sense is identified and acknowledged under the Constitution, your Bill of Rights. In law, you're not under legal statutes of state, your person is your Bill of Rights, your humanity, your human rights. You have the right to be secure in your person, and by extension, that person is your child until that child is 18 years old. So the states are overriding your security as a person and taking part of you so they can have financial gain and fund their organizations. And this is why this is becoming an epidemic across the land in many different jurisdictions, because these people are literally making bank on your children and destroying your lives to do it. And they're violating the Constitution. The problem is, why are we not following the Constitution? What happened was I think it was around 1841, it might have been 1847, the Supreme Court made a rule saying that the state of California didn't have to make trial by grand jury. So since California didn't have to have a grand jury for criminal cases, they spread this through the individual states, saying, well, if California doesn't have to do a grand jury, then neither do we. And through the years, this evolved into the civil courts, into civil cases of children and families and things like that, and saying we don't have to abide by the Constitution because we have this exemption, and the Supreme Court agreed with it. And it's just evolved into them taking over everything. And they've done it right in front of everyone, and nobody actually sees it. But the legality is in the states is legalese. They do what they want. But the law is very different in constitutions. So you have two different things happening. You have lawful and you have legal. And the legal part of it is they're doing whatever they want. Now they've got it written in most states, almost every state, that your child goes to a public school a half an hour before your child goes to school to start school, and a half an hour after the school ends, they are under the jurisdiction and the guardianship of the state. If you put your child in that school, CPS can walk in, take your children, never give them back, not even tell you until after they've done it. And they have the legal ability to do that. And then tell you after the fact that you're never going to see your child again, and you have to go into these courts and fight to get your child back.
Yeah,
My own children have been questioned at school from CPS, and I was never told about it. They pulled my children out and had meetings with them and never informed me. This was at a charter school. And then they came to my house twice, and I'm like, 2 different states too, one in Virginia and one in Arizona. So they're targeting, they don't care. I was a military wife for 20 years, and they came to my house as a military wife. Like, you know who I am. You don't need to show up to my house. You can, we're government employees. And they still come to your house. They do not care who you are. And also, I wanted to say, we're open for questions. This is a forum, open-ended. You can raise your hand.
Yeah.
We want participation. We want to educate. We want to teach you how you can come. My goal is to wake everybody up to the needs that are your next door neighbor. Raise your hand in this room. Do you know anybody in the judicial system that you know in your heart they're good people and they're being abused by the system? Is there anybody in here that you personally know? Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we have 6 people in this room that we can help. We can guide. We don't have the answers for everything. We're not even pretending. We're just willing to go and learn.
We're not lawyers.
We're not lawyers. This is not legal advice. This is just, we are on the road doing everything we can to fight for people, and we have to learn as we go. What did they do? What did they do? Okay, what does this mean constitutionally? Okay, something's wrong, and then we have to figure it out. We have to educate ourselves as we're working for clients. How do we overcome this? Does anybody want to share a brief part of your story? What are you seeing happening to them, and how how can we guide you and tell you what to do? Because we can come alongside these people with our time, talent, and treasure and make sure that we work to get their children home. And we're doing it. I've been in the last 22 months, I've been a part of watching, participating, supporting 11 children coming home. So, in fact, one of my business associates, her granddaughter was stolen in the middle of this 22-month case at 3 days old. Took us 8 months in the judicial system to fight them and get her back. 3 days old. You want your 3-day-old baby taken from your breast out of a hospital that they gave you medication that popped positive? Yeah, they give you medication that pops positive and they take your baby. 3 days old. And it takes you 8 months to get it back.
That's actually a common story.
It's very common.
Yeah.
11 children came home this year, and it's like, I know it's only 11, but if they were your 11, if it mattered to you, it would be worth every moment that I got to invest, every moment I invested in every one of those cases. Thank you, God, that I got to be a part of it. And pray. If nothing else, pray. So.
Yeah. And it looks like they set up a mic, too, if anybody
Yeah,
has
if somebody,
questions.
please, anybody ask questions, stand up.
Probably for Jerry. Is there a way that parents today can undo the contract that was created from the marriage license, which gives them, unbeknownst to most parents, jurisdiction over their offspring? Is there a way to get out of that contract before something like this happens to a family?
Okay, that's a great question. Again, we're not attorneys, so this is not legal advice. We can only give information. Okay, so we just want that disclaimer so that you understand. What happens with a marriage license is no state can license you for what you have the right to do. You own that right. Period. Why do you need a license from a state to love somebody when you have the human right to do that? And it's acknowledged by our Constitution. So if you want to get out of the jurisdictions of this, you must stand on the supremacy of Yahuwah and what is acknowledged under the supreme law of the land, and get the jurisdictions of the state off of you.
I do believe there are ways to do it. I don't know them. I don't work in the marriage part of it. I mean, I'm more isolated. And again, it's like on the job training. I'm literally on the job training all the time because we were not taught this stuff properly. And so you have to have a problem before you can try to figure out what the solution is. So there probably is a solution that's,
There is a process of
Yeah.
nullification of marriage license, yeah.
yeah. Okay.
So the marriage license, what's happened here is two people fell in love. They decided to go down and get a marriage license and join in holy matrimony. When you do that, it is a legal contract, a financial instrument under the state. The state and the two people are bonded under a financial instrument. And now the two share financially that financial responsibility. So when you have a child, now that automatically goes into that bond. And since the state is party to your marriage, then they claim jurisdiction over your children under that bond.
They also trade you on the stock market with
And
all
they trade
of
you
these
on, and
bonds.
they make money in the background. They make millions of dollars on you in the background. They love you getting married, divorced, married, divorced, married, divorced, because they make billions of dollars for it. You just don't know it. So to answer your question, how do you get out from that jurisdiction? If you're going through a case in the equity courts right now with these states, you have to challenge that jurisdiction. And you can do that at any time. Don't let these attorneys tell you that jurisdictional law is emphatic, and once we set jurisdiction, you have to know you can't. You can challenge jurisdiction at any time and place it back under the common law jurisdiction of the Constitution. And the judges will fight you tooth and nail, tooth and nail, tooth and nail. They will fight and fight and fight and fight to keep that in the jurisdiction they claimed they had. So to answer your question, if you want them off of your back, any judge that claims jurisdiction in which he does not have in a court is an act or acts of treason. This is how bad this is, ladies and gentlemen. These judges are literally creating acts of treason and war against this country. But they tell you they have the jurisdiction to do it. So if you want to get your children out of the jurisdictions, challenge the jurisdiction, tell that judge or that adjudicator he's committing treason. You're going to report him to the Marine Corps JAG and stand firm. They will fight you. They'll find you in contempt. They'll try to throw you in jail. They want to keep the children. And we have a president that has for a decade now said we're going to save the children. And this is part of what he's talking about. We must get this country back on track to the Constitution, to the law of this land, and fight under Yahuwah to save our children. This is horrible. They're trading these kids across the world, they're trafficking them.
Yes.
Trump is a pedophile. How do you fight Trump? Trump is a pedophile. So how do you fight him?
Well, we can't really get into the political side of this. I brought up Trump for the reasons of the cause for the children, save the children. To answer the question of the jurisdiction for the children, individually, what's going on politically and the propagandas with him, I couldn't care less who he is as a person. I don't want anybody doing things wrong to children.
Well, we know that if that ends up being what is the truth, then the law stands for everybody, and we just have to recognize that nobody's above the law. If it's the truth and the truth comes out, then the truth comes out, and that will happen. You know, doesn't have anything to do with us. So
the truth has come out over the past 2 years repeatedly
Yeah.
with no resolve.
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, without unity within the people, we're never going to get somebody with authority to hold themselves accountable. It definitely takes. One of the operations I've been working is Operation We the People, and that's where they travel around and you try to educate and empower the people by teaching them that it doesn't take one of us to show up to make things right, that they can do it within themselves and their own loved ones. So Operation We the People is like, for instance, you would find your loved ones, you find your crew, you find your people, and you unite them and educate them, because exposing a pedophile is first and foremost, you know, and because you need public perception. Now, overriding a president, you're going to need 150 million people behind you saying the same thing, honestly, unless you want to get violent. And that's the last thing anybody wants to do, because how does that guarantee a future for our children? A violent uprising. I started a company. It's called We Expose Monsters Media Group, and that's one of the main things. That's one of the main things that we do, is we're accumulating the data, the evidence, and so that we can do an expose on it and expose it, because that's going to get the people in your corner. And I know a lot of people have been doing that for President Trump. But when it comes to our elected officials, I mean, you show me one who's not a pedophile, because every parent that goes through family law, we're all guilty, and then we have to prove ourselves innocent. And that's why I'm looking at any elected official as well, because I spent 3 months sitting in my capital in the state of Minnesota. And what I found was every group that they had, or every organization they had formed and were funding for the accountability, they're junk. Ombudsman program junk. I mean, anybody that's there to enforce accountability on our elected officials, those organizations are defunct, and it seems to be there systematically and with reason, because we the people are held to a different standard than our elected officials.
Yeah.
So that's a tough question. It really is. The best thing I can say is get your neighbors together, get your friends together, get your family together, get your loved ones together, educate, show, and then continue to grow that. because nobody's coming to save us but us. It's just that's the most apparent thing I've seen. In my case specifically, it was mom's case. It wasn't even my case. And I had to fight in the state of Minnesota just to be a party in the case instead of a participant. Even though that was my blood children, I had no rights because we were never married. There's only 3 ways to establish rights in the state of Minnesota for parental rights. One, you have to go through court, you're married, or you live together longer than 2 years. And I didn't fit any of those. So I had to fight just to be a father. And have rights over my children just to start out, versus the state being the prosecutor and the victim, technically, because there was no charge, there was no neglect, there was no reason for the state to step in other than for them to secure funding, because there's, ironically, there's a quota of 35 children that they escalate in Washington County, Minnesota. They have to escalate 35 cases from a regular family law case into a CPS case in order to maintain the funding that they require for their program. So unless you're going to unite the people, there's no way to expose like a president and overthrow a president peacefully, legally and lawfully, because they are already set up to fight you at every turn you have. So that's a very difficult question.
Jerry, you mentioned you referred to them as equity courts. I've never heard that. Would you? Is that because it's all about the money?
It's a bank that, yes, all the court system is the bank that trades our bonds and our everything on the stock market. That's how they get them, is through the court system, and that's how they establish them. I want to clarify with the family that I work with, 2 of the children were home birthed, so it kind of ties into what we're actually talking about. So they got a problem that they weren't aware of. So when they took these children, they would have assumed that all of them had birth certificates. Well, then it puts a stop in the system, because now they have 2 children that they have no way of getting a birth certificate to trade. So they've taken the other 3 they can legally, through their legalese, but 2 of them, they can't. So something they're currently doing at the moment is trying to have a blood test to prove that the parents are the biological parents, regardless of fighting for 22 months and being homeless for eternity. They have to prove that they're actually their children. But the parents aren't going to do that. They specifically don't have the children bonded. They don't want them bonded. They want them free, and they want to go live on their land. So now they're trying to bully them into a contract. And then the other part of it is the interstate compact. So in the state of Arizona, I work in Maricopa County. Mark Fincham is one of our senators, and he works with one of the girls, Rachel Keschel, and they have been doing what's called an ad hoc meeting. And people from around the entire country have been flying into Maricopa County, speaking at ad hoc meetings about the interstate compact trafficking that goes on. One parent lives here, another parent lives over here, and they're trading them interstate, and then you can't get them back. And they do what's called an interstate compact, and they do it through the churches. And so I got to sit in front and watch how they actually do this on the inner circle of when they're doing the state to state stuff. And we are fighting in Maricopa County specifically. I'm not saying I think I don't have a major opinion of Mark Fincham. I do personally know Rachel Keschel, and so I have a personal, relationship with her, and I think she's amazing and doing a good job.
So,
Thank you very much. I'd also like to hear Jerry's.
I'm sorry.
yes, sir.
So sorry.
We're going to get back with that. Yeah. It's a good question. What is equity court? You probably don't know it. You have to ask permission to walk up to the bench. You hear this all the time in court. A judge will say, you may approach the bench, right? Do you know what bench translates into in Latin? Bank. That adjudicator is truly, literally bonded under a financial instrument to conduct business for the bank in the court. It is a deceptive practice and fraudulent operation of an illegal, corrupt corporation, and he presents himself as a judge. Under Article 3, Section 2, correct me if I'm wrong, Johnny, Article 3, Section 2 of the United States Constitution, it says in all cases, every case, the jurisdiction shall be the United States Supreme Court in admiralty, maritime, and equity. It's specifically written that way in the Constitution. They recognized all three of these types of jurisdictions and have superseded them and demanded that the jurisdiction will be the Supreme Court. So in equity courts, what that kind of means to the most part is when the family court is established and they're talking about your marriage bonds to the lady with the financial instrument of marriage, it's all about the money. It's all about the bonding of the financial instruments, and it's all conducted in equity courts behind the bench, the bar, the bank. And that's where it comes into the British accredited registration. Britain came over here and they registered all the assets in this land, and they claimed jurisdiction over the bank. And that's where this bar administration comes from in the courts. It's all about the money. Make no mistake, when you walk into that courtroom, it is about taking money out of your pocket and putting that asset in theirs. Period. Has nothing to do with law. It has everything to do with a criminal cartel that is stealing you blind. And they're lying to you to do it. They are literally bonded under an instrument of fund. Okay, a bond. That's why they call it a marriage bond. You're bonded in holy matrimony. And they take these bonds, they trade them on the markets in behind the scenes, and they sell those bonds to foreign countries that own that bond. And that bond grows interest, it grows money. And they literally are human trafficking you without you knowing it, bonding your love, your children, your life, and making bank on you.
Surety bonds.
Surety bonds.
Yep.
Every single federal bank in this country, if you walk into the lobby and you look at its business license, because if you operate a business in this country, you have to put the license up on the wall. It has to be readily viewable. And if you look at that bank and you look at that license, it will tell you that it is a security instrument. It is a bonding company. And it's insurance bonds they operate under. They are all working together through the judgeship in these courts to bond you and take your money. So equity court is literally just another way of saying we have control of your money and we're going to do whatever we want in our discretion, and whatever we say goes. And if you don't like it, we'll just charge you another instrument and you'll pay for it, or we'll take your kids. That's literally what happens in equity court.
Or life or liberty or property.
And it's overriding the constitutional protections that are acknowledged under the Constitution, that you have the right to be protected against this, and nobody is standing up for you, the people. The government, to answer this wonderful lady's question, what do you do about a president?
And
Yes, ma'am.
if the elite
Yes.
are shapeshifters or reptilians, as we all, or most of us should know by now, what do you do?
Well, you make awareness to people. And it gets back to this. What is a corporation? You have a president, you have a vice president, and you have a secretary or treasurer. Anywhere in this country, if you form a company, you have a president, you have a vice president, and you have a secretary or treasurer. What do we have in our government? We have a president, a vice president, and a secretary of state, a treasurer. Our government is literally a corporation. The president is just a CEO of a corporation. They've turned the presidency into a corporation. So how do you deal with a president? You get his butt back in common law and take his corporation away from him. That's how we take this down. You take down the corporation, which is the Federal Reserve, which is the monetary system in this country. And you take their power and authority away. Don't use their money. It's a fake money. It's fraudulent. We find a way to get back to our common law and constitutional law, which is gold and silver in the land. Don't accept that fake paper, because they're literally playing Monopoly with your life. And every house you put on the land, you don't own that. They do. It's just that simple, guys. If you don't hold the homesteaded land note of that property, you don't own that property. You're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for a house that you don't own, the bank doesn't own, unless they have the note. Then the mortgage is just another fraudulent paper they're sending out, and you're paying interest upon interest and paying all this stuff on stuff that doesn't even exist. It's all fake. And that's what we're trying to do, get the awareness to the people about how this government was taken over by the British accredited registration. And our government was turned into, from a constitutional law of government to a judicial corporation, the United States Inc., that has taken control and enslaved everybody in this room, myself included. I can't walk out that door and even breathe without paying for it, because they charge you a tax to clean your air under the laws of EPA. You guys are slaved by this corporation that owns this land right now. And so, yes, ma'am, I really appreciate you questioning about what about a president, because we believe a president operates under common law. No, he doesn't. He's controlled by a much larger conglomeration of cartels in this world called the Monetary Fund, the World Bank. And the Federal Reserve is only one section of that. It's 1/7 of the World Bank. And Jerome Powell sitting up there dictating interest and stuff like that. It is only one little part of what's going on in the world. This isn't just a United States issue. It's a worldwide issue, and it's taken over everything. So to question Donald Trump, the propagandas, the evidences of him being a pedophile, what he's done in his life, he was elected, placed in, is really irrelevant to this cause, because the man himself doesn't mean anything. We must take down this corporation. We must get our land back, our country, our human rights, our authority over it. That's how we take down a president.
We've strategically wise, it seems like we're getting W's by legal and lawful noncompliance. So with every law that's written, there's a loophole, there's a gray area. That's why we have omnibus bills that are fought over a single word like the or way. It all depends on where it's located within the verbiage. And we are seeing, like our friend Danielle, that was with us in the Black Hills, is 3 times she fought CPS, and 3 times she got a W, that we call it, basically because she didn't comply. She was educated enough to understand the laws, the loopholes in the law, and then just refused to cooperate legally and lawfully. There tends to be always an avenue or an operation you can pull in order to overcome the laws that we're held to. It seems to be every law, there's a gray area. And we've seen W's. Actually, I've seen quite a few in CPS where it's just non-compliance. And then education. I mean, obviously, if 10 of us stand up to our transgressors, it doesn't have the same effect as 150 million people standing up to our transgressors. There's also variables within that as well, like Operation 3Cs, calm, cool, and collected. It's one thing to protest. It's one thing to cause a disruption. It's another thing to occupy public space, calm, cool, and collected. It's getting loud and violent and aggressive isn't what we're seeing wins at. What we're seeing there is we're seeing infiltration, and then both sides of the fence tend to get tossed aside, and that's what we saw a lot in Minnesota. Minnesota tends to be a bit of a war zone right now when it comes to we the people versus our transgressors. And I say it like that versus the other way I would say it, because I don't want to be considered a terrorist. Our transgressors, they've had a long time to plan everything that's happening today. And it's going to take the majority of us uniting in order to overcome that. But we are seeing W's, and it's legal and lawful noncompliance. That's what we're seeing. My case specifically, well, I should say his mother's case, I jumped through every hoop, and they just added more hoops. And I jumped through those, and they added more hoops. And they would remove judges and remove guardian ad litems and remove caseworkers and just filter through them and then try again and try to set an agenda or a narrative and run with that. And even though I was able to overcome all of those, they just kept stacking on more, because if they want your children, they're going to get your children. It's the federal government. And it's not even the federal government, it's their money from your Social Security money, because that's where they fund Title IV incentivization, is through the Social Security Administration. I think 1962 is when or 63 when they enacted that.
Yeah.
And so literally we're funding our own demise through our federal government. And like Jerry was saying earlier, it's the Title IV incentivization is actually just interpreted by each individual state. So it's not even cookie cutter stamped within each state and how they enact, and they go after these funding, because that funding is finite. There's like a competition on who can be the most aggressive for either Title IV-D child support funding, or which I was affected for, which is Title IV-E, which is the foster care. There's a finite amount. So everybody's in a competition on who can have the most amount of child support collected, or how many children that they can remove, because the one who's the victor and gets the most funding is the one who removes the most or goes after the most money. So overcoming a president, I mean, it's going to take all of us, educated, empowered, realizing that we are the ones that give our government the authority. That comes from us. It doesn't come from them. It comes from us. And legal and lawful non-compliance is almost our duty when it comes to what the U.S. Constitution would state, that it's our duty to overcome this and to fight against this, regardless if that president is a Republican or a Democrat. It doesn't matter.
So that leads into how. What authority do we have over our government? We have an instrument that was declared, and it's called the Declaration of Independence. It is an extremely powerful document. That declaration wasn't just for us, the U.S., America. That document was recorded in the international laws of common law of the jurisdiction of international law to the community of all the countries in the world. There's a jurisdiction there that's outside the United States. So when that document was recorded, the Declaration of Independence, and I will summarize because you all know it's a very large document. When a government commits long-term abuses and usurpations, it is not only the right of the people, it is the duty of the people to throw out such government and replace it with new safeguards. Meaning, the people are the authority. You unite together as one in a common understanding of mind, the state of mind of what you know is right, and you stand together and you take that government and you tell it to get out because what you have done is wrong. And we, the people, are the authority, and we take back what you've wronged. That's what must happen. We've forgotten to be that in this country. We have forgotten how to do that, and this government and this indoctrination has done a real good job revving everybody up, getting you back and forth to work, taxing you, keeping you broke. and not having time to become or remain America. America is great, not because of a president, not because of Jerry Reid or Johnny Wicks or Leah. We are great because we are we. Yes, ma'am.
Our country is now bankrupt because of Trump.
Yes.
And there are thousands, if not millions, of men, women, children being murdered because of him and others. China, in fact, probably is the lead now, I would say.
Yes. Okay, that's a very good point. The problem we have in this country is president after president after president has to deal with this system that has been controlled by the money. So even a good president, not saying whether or not Trump is not, whatever, when he comes into office, he inherits and he learns something that's this sinister, this evil that's in the background, is controlling the entire world. The presidents say, I'm going to do this, and they get in there and they spank them and say, you ain't going to do nothing. You're going to do exactly what the government tells you to do because we own everything. China, very, very, very good. I'm glad you led into that. China buys these bonds we're talking about. So these bonds on marriages and corporations and land, they sell United States bonds for investments. Jerome Powell tells his banks to sell these security bonds, and when somebody buys them, what happens? China buys a bond. That bond goes directly in somebody's pocket as an asset. China services that bond and waits for long term of the interest to mature, so it makes money. The banks get an asset right up front, and we the people work our butts off paying the interest. We are literally slaves to this system. Donald Trump can't do anything about the spendings. He can't just stop everything like snapping his fingers because he doesn't have the authority. Okay? He is literally just a CEO of a corporation with given a fraudulent perception that we the people are something he's working for. He does not work for us. It's the plain, simple truth and fact of it. We are given the indoctrinated belief that he's working for us. But he will do what this corporation tells him to do. Because he must. Because he is a CEO. He is an employee of that corporation. We may have put him in that chair, but he has to operate a corporation. Because that's what America has become. It is not a common law of America, for America. It is a United States, Inc. corporation for a company. That is the simple truth of it. What do you do about it? Well, you have to go to these equity courts, these admiralty courts, and in these maritime courts, and you have to file with that court before you ever enter into that courtroom, the very first hearing, and challenge its jurisdiction. That adjudicator cannot take jurisdiction over which that he does not have jurisdiction of. But what happens is, what do? You get a defense attorney, right? Public defender, or you get a civil case, and you go out and you retain an attorney for $1,500, $2,000. You got to understand this system all works exactly the same way. It's just a repetitive indoctrination. So this attorney that you hire, he wants an upfront retainer. You give him $1,500. He walks in the courtroom. He says he's going to defend you. Okay. So you go into a hearing, and what's the first thing that attorney tells you? You must tell the judge who you are. You got to speak your name. That judge will say, hey, are you so-and-so? And you say, yes. And then the judge will say, do you understand what's going on in this courtroom today after he described it to you? And you say, yes. You just gave that court, not that judge, you just gave that court jurisdiction over you. and you don't even know you did it, but that attorney you just paid $1,500 to commit fraud against you didn't tell you that you have the right to remain silent. You don't have to tell that judge who you are. You don't have to answer him. He's an impartial person to hear a case. So that judge just performed discovery for your opponent, for the accuser, to identify who you are. And your attorney took $1,500 to sell you under the river. Don't say anything. Don't tell those judges nothing. The burden of proof is upon the accuser, and you have the right to remain silent. That judge asks you a question, don't even answer him. What's he going to do? He's going to do it 3 times. He's going to threaten you with contempt. Contempt of what? He can't even establish the court because he can't even prove who's sitting there. This is the fraud. This is the corruption. They don't tell you this stuff, and the attorneys will not tell you this stuff because they want to make money on you. He gets paid up front, the judge is getting paid, you're getting sailed up the river, and the accuser's getting what they want. And again, you're just back into slavery. And if you don't go along with it, if you don't do exactly what they say, they'll throw you in a dog cage. Because they're playing on, and I hate to use this word because the American people are not ignorant. They've been lied to. They're playing on the ignorance that you don't understand it. You don't understand what's going on here in truth. Because the American people are no longer standing up in their authority, putting a stop to it. And this is the way we must do it. If you want to stop these courts and these judges, walk in that public hearing with 100 of your friends. And when the judge says, why is everybody in here? It's because they're here to witness this open hearing, this public hearing. And where everybody's going to watch what you're doing. And if you're not proper in what you're doing, we're going to arrest you. Because the American people have the authority to make an arrest. You don't have to be a cop. You don't have to have a costume and a fake badge. We are the authority. We the people. And every single state in this country, in its canons, merits, and its laws, gives a provision for civil arrest. We have the authority to arrest anybody for anything they've done, which is felonious in your presence. Not only do you have the right to arrest somebody, you have the duty to do it, because if you know of the wrong and you don't do anything about it, you're just as criminal as they are. Don't tattletale. You heard the other in school, right? You tell that right from school. You tell your children, don't tattletale. I'm sorry. BS. Our Declaration of Independence tells everybody to stand up, and if you know of a wrong, you speak it. You stand in the truth, stand against it, and you tell everyone you know. That's what makes America great. We have to start calling out this evil. We must stand in the face of it, and we must tell everybody, this is wrong. We're not going to accept it and not allow it. That's what makes America great. Then we stand in the eyes of Yahuwah in truth. If we want our country to be good, we must be it. And it'll stop this taking our kids. Yes, sir. Is there anybody else in the back that would like to ask a question? You know, I don't want to miss anybody.
I just real quickly want to touch base on that as well, too. For one, anytime a president stands up, they eliminate him. JFK, you look at Martin Luther King. I mean, anybody that ever tries to do anything, they just remove them. So you got to be smart at how you do it. And then two, I would have to say that our county commissioners, our city councils, our school boards, they have more of an influence on the moral bankruptcies or the financial bankruptcies that our country is suffering. You got to have to stand up on a local level. The president has a lot less influence on your son or your daughter's day in school than the school board does. I would look more towards the local stance, and I mean 3 out of 5, and you run your city. If you get 3 out of 5 votes, and you guys can control how things are interpreted by your local administrations. Yes, please.
I would like to know if you guys have tried filing kidnapping charges on these people, because I have before. They've thrown me in jail, and I filed kidnapping charges on them, and I wound up in prison. But besides the point, you know, there is a way around this, just so you know. I mean, I was taught by an elderly man, and he's kind of taught me things, that have put me in predicaments that I don't want to be in, but I've been there. And so I've learned a lot from this. I've learned a lot from him. I mean, he's taught me things that, I could have never gotten any wisdom or knowledge from anywhere else. Not even a college or whatever, but and one of the things I'm concerned about is whether you've filed kidnapping charges on these people, because they don't like it, but I've done it, and I've done quite a bit of things that they don't like. So I'm kind of in a predicament right now, just because they don't like the stuff I've done. The judge does not. He's got his monkeys hounding me all the time. I can't even go home. It's pretty crazy. But there is a solution, just so you know. And, the more people that are aware of this solution, I think that we could overtake it. And, but I would like to, it takes time to discuss it and, talk to other people about it. Some people don't want to know about it, including my own family. But,
I want to just jump in and tell you how brave you are to stand up.
Yes.
And I want to thank you for acknowledging it's called gang stalking.
Oh, I
And
know that.
you need to call it what it is. And we all have experienced the flat tires, the people showing up to your house, them following you, running you off roads. It is not for the faint of heart. And if you're enduring backlash, then thank you. And it is a real thing. And that's why when I say to you, do you know somebody in this situation? And Johnny's 100% right. The president isn't going to come down and give these children back. That's just at this point in time that he doesn't have the local authority to do that. It is a process, and each and every situation are targeted different. The family on the land, when they're gone at court, their property gets sabotaged. Flat tires are a really common, when you're working with a group of people in a period of 6 months and there's 10 flat tires collectively, that's an issue. That's something that doesn't happen in your everyday life, much less getting run off the road multiple times. You start to see a pattern of the gang stalking, and that's advocates included. So the power is in multiplying. When you go to court, 50 people standing with you or getting online and being a court watcher. He does it all the time. You can do it from anywhere in the world. Be a court watcher. If there's 100 people logged on throughout a day watching every one of these cases, now the judges know you're being watched, the CPS workers, the lawyers, the guardian ad litems, all of them now are being watched. They don't know what the outcome of that is. They don't know. Now you know who they are. You know their faces. And guess what? My thinking is, if you sat in a church forum and you asked half of the people in that church, or a good portion of the people would know somebody that this was. If we could collectively come alongside, so there's 6 in this room. If everybody in this room, we all lived next to each other. So let's pretend we're all family. We all go to church together. We all go to some group together. And these 6 people need us to stand by. What do you need? Filing fees. You need paper. You need ink. You need rides. You need a place to lay your head because you're working on an out-of-state, custody. Whatever the situation is. These people in this room are going to commit to these 6 families. We're going to fill the gap for you guys. Whatever this is, we are not going to let you miss one hearing, one date, one court order. We're going to stand alongside you, and we're also going to contribute. We're going to do affidavits of statements. We're going to support you. We know you. You're our brother or sister. We know your character. They're lying against you. And collectively, this group is going to stand next to these 6 families because they're our brothers and sisters. When we start doing that, and we start laying down our lives and we sacrifice, then guess what? That's biblical. We lay down our life for our brothers. We come alongside and we bear one another's burdens. We're not bearing one another's burdens. Period. There's 2 of us helping this family of 7. 4 generations, 4 states. How come we don't have 100 people helping? Many people know about this case, and I'm not, this isn't a judgment to anybody. You're asking specific, very pertinent questions. How come we can't overcome this? Because I'm alone. I'm alone. And do you know, for the first time in 22 months, I now have men standing next to me as a woman. I have a bulletproof vest. I have a bulletproof vest, an AR, a 380, and a 9mm. And I go about half the time alone or with 2 ladies that are in their 80s, 3 ladies that are in their 80s. Why is a woman with 3 80-year-old ladies fighting a court system when we have men? And yes, ma'am. I will love your help. I will love it. And these men, I can't tell you, I cry a lot. I do, but they're being the masculine in my life. I've been, doing this, and they're fighting a fight that, it's just an honor to stand next to them.
The answer is yes. Yes, we have done that. Recently, Jerry and I served Jackson County, Missouri. What we did is we gave notice under affidavit that 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242 are being violated. And then under 18 U.S.C. 4, what that does is any government employee that's been notified of these felonies and even to the point of kidnapping or death, that under 18 U.S.C. 4, that can be considered a capital crime. Now, granted, we're not the DOJ. We cannot enforce that as civilians, but it's basically like giving notice or educating these government employees that they're just as guilty with a felony if they don't report these 18 U.S.C. 241 and 242 to either a higher civilian or military authority. There is a lot of people that, and I am encouraging them and finding them and uniting them for us to attack any and all possible ways that are legal and lawful. I absolutely would love to talk to you further. I do a lot of my things through Facebook and the social medias. I do have a Proton. I have a lot of people right now sending a lot of data. And there's one way that other groups have been fighting as well in the state of Texas. Texas, it was found out that a little bit of intel on the inside, we find out that there's over half of Texas has what's called the phantom cases. So there's no perp, there's no victim, there's only administrative actions so that they can secure the funding. And we found that almost half of, I'm not going to say the specific county, but half of this county's, half of their cases are fake. And they did that specifically for the funding. As we grow, as the people unite, as the data is collected, that data is, once is a coincidence, twice is, once is an accident, twice is a coincidence. 400 counts of systematic violations is evidence. And that evidence is what's going to give us the power to legally fight back against our own government that sets the rules, because we are the ones that give them that power. You and me fighting alone, it's a tough fight. But all of us fighting, it's something they can't ignore and can't ignore. And I'm not talking violent disruption. I'm talking about occupying public space, calm, cool, and collected. I'm talking about Operation Microscope, which is court watching, and educating individuals at what they're seeing. So if there's a judge or a lawyer that violates their code of ethics or the procedures that are set before, then we en masse file those complaints. The fact that we're not involved is why this is occurring. Exactly. The fact that we are a lack of education is why they're doing what they're doing. They want to convolute us with TV and advertisements and all of these senses of lack of self-worth. And once you eradicate that and you pull that out of there, you'd be surprised how powerful the common person is. Especially when they're empowered with unity and support and education. Education is the biggest thing that I can push in what I'm trying to do. That's why even though Jerry and I don't have the authority to serve what a DOJ would be, we definitely put them on notice. So if the Department of Justice comes through Jackson County and they look and they saw, well, you had absolute evidence under threat of perjury that these violations occurred, you can be held for 18 USC 4, and that could be death if it involves kidnapping or death of a child.
So basically, what that means is misprision. And if you're aware of the wrong and you've done nothing to correct it or attempt to do something to correct it, if you didn't make someone else aware of the wrong, then you can be held criminally liable for it as if you did it yourself.
As if you did it yourself.
That's
Guilty by
misprision. That there are
Holding these
laws.
people accountable is literally the goal.
There are
Holding them
laws.
accountable to their oath of office. They
Yep.
promised to us, and we put them there. Now you will perform righteously, or we're going to come en masse and hold you accountable. And
2/3 of people don't vote. 2/3. 1/3 of people actually vote. You look at Operation GameStop, which is another operation. It's just teaching the power of the vote. What happened with GameStop is that a bunch of nerds, including myself, saw the power in buying and fighting their short. They were short selling or they were shorting GameStop because they wanted to disrupt the company, bankrupt it, and then sell it off by pieces. But what happened was a bunch of people found that they possessed the power through $5, and they bought a stock and they held on to that stock, and no matter what they were told, the propaganda they were fed, it just continued to grow and grow and grow and grow and grow, and they actually cost a lot of major corporations a lot of money, and that seems to be where our voice is heard, is when you financially cause disruption within their game plan.
Johnny, have you and Leah put together a program or thought about getting together with Jerry and putting something together to educate people so this young lady back there doesn't get thrown in jail?
Right. So we have recently, because our uniting is fairly recent.
we haven't even known each other 30 days yet.
No. So I'm up in Washington State. I'm building with a gentleman called named Derek Preble. We're developing an operating system. It involves like business automation, case assessment. It's basically going to give us the opportunity for us to hit the road. We have a couple vehicles up there that we're retrofitting with the technology in order to bring it to each individual town, and that's actually what we discussed when we were up in the Black Hills is traveling to different areas. Specifically, I have some specific operations I'm doing. So there's certain areas I do want to incorporate these teams, these regional teams. It involves superior courts and the jurisdiction within those. There's a lot of operations involved in that, including like Operation Rubber Stamp, which is just a bunch of notaries within these individual groups. So when we do have violations in court or systematic violations that we want to fight legally, we can en masse file. And that's where like the notaries come in. Even though 3 separate signatures are this equivalent to a notary, it's just best to have these systems in place so that we can fight accordingly. There's quite a few things that I have developed, not even just through me. In my case, after I went pro se for about a year and a half, a young lady came and she found me through a mutual friend, and she fought for 12 years with a group that was a coalition out of Canada. And then for the next 2 years, I had to go through my case with the knowledge that I was going to lose, because I was going to lose. And knowing this, it gave me an opportunity to document the evidence of what they're doing and how they're doing it. So unfortunately, I had to sacrifice my children in order to be here in front of you today. But there's a lot of opportunities for us to learn how to fight legal and lawful. There's a lot of different operations that either came from a download from source or this group that worked prior to me being involved in this whole advocacy and criminal actions by our government. So there is a system being built. There's a lot of groups out there. Problem with these groups is all groups are infiltrated, including our federal government. And so you have to have a lot of discernment in how you proceed forward, or you end up in jail or dead, or you might get your children and, flee, because there's a lot of things going on that a lot of people don't hear about because they just eliminate the very strong, powerful voices, as you've seen with JFK, MLK. I mean, the list goes on and on. So we're working on that. There are a lot of groups out there. The biggest thing is within your own. Set up your own group. We all got loved ones. We all got family. We all got friends. Most people, well, I shouldn't say that because most people didn't help me in my fight. But mostly it's because they just don't understand. They're like, why would the government do this to you? Is there something you're hiding? Is there something you did to the children that you're not telling us? And you hand them your case and you say, well, take a look. If you're not going to listen to what I say, at least read it for yourself. But when people look at 7,000 pages of documentation, they don't even read the first paragraph, unfortunately. And that's where these groups are involved as well. So we're setting up the logistics in order to get this to happen. So we're close. We're definitely close. Getting loud and educating is probably the most important thing, and that's why we're here today, us three specifically. We do plan on working together in the future, and mostly just giving you the ability to fight for yourself, and then the strength to do that, because they will come after you. They will retaliate.
That's why we're willing to travel. We've discussed this, and we are specifically Johnny and I, and when Jerry and other teammates can join us.
XRP Shaman.
We have quite a few people that want to do this with us. We are at a place in our lives where we are fully committed to this mission until it ends, simply because there's no going back for us.
Well, there's nothing to go back.
There's nothing to go back to.
They've taken everything.
Yeah, we have truly are in a place where there's nothing but going forward. So my ask more is, and I grew up in the church, so I just see foundationally, I don't care what the group is. If there is a group of people, everybody has something to offer. Everybody. If you're in a wheelchair, you can be a court watcher. If you can be boots on the ground, then if we're in your town, host us, have us, we'll guide, and we'll get the teams together. And again, I'm just using the room. These 6 individuals in here, our team comes alongside them collectively, and everybody fills a portion of the gap. Then in that, and I'm just, again, using church. In that church, those people, thank you, honey. Those people, then we've made that much progress. We've come alongside 6 families in one group that we have now been able to make headway. And that court in that city, whatever that city is, it doesn't matter. They now know there's a group of people that are going to fight in that city, and those judges are going to be held accountable. And when you start reading the documents, guess what? Those judges, those CPS workers, those lawyers and esquires, they're your neighbor. These are our neighbors. We go to school, our children go to school with their parents. They sit at baseball games with us. They sit at the local bars and restaurants with us. They're our community people, and they're in these documents. We have to be aware that it's the people sitting next to you. Do you live next door to a doctor? Do you live next door to a lawyer? What are they doing in the court systems? These are our brothers and sisters that are participating, some very knowingly and some unknowingly. They need to be educated as well, that in their field of work, if they're not cognizant of what they're participating in, they're still participating in it. Education in a group forum where you come in it's a neutral stance. I'm not judging anybody. I'm coming neutrally with truth and how we get justice. And if you're a part of the other side that isn't doing righteous, guess what? You're going to be in these documents. You want to know if I'm righteous? Read my documents and see what attorney is taking my child. See what CPS worker is taking my child and what they're doing. It's all written. It's public knowledge. That's where we come. I can't put my family out there and say, please come help my family. I don't know you. I have no idea, but I can ask Johnny. Johnny, I know you, and my family needs help. I can't come to your town and help you if you aren't going to stand as an advocate for a family that you know is righteous. Because if they are doing drugs and they are abusing their child, of course I don't want them reunited. That would be a horrible thing. So accountability from our brothers and sisters. I met this family. I looked at their case. I saw the righteousness in it. And as a human, if I were to have turned my back on this family, I'd never be able to sleep at night for the injustice that was done to them. Did I have to sacrifice my life? Absolutely not. I could have walked away. Let me tell you, I've cried out to God a million times. I'm not strong enough to do this, God. I can't stand another day. I don't even have a child taken in the system. What am I doing? I'm a full-time Mima. I retired a little early, and I got to be a Mima all the time. Well, guess what? This Mima had to go to work, and I can't be in that space anymore. I've had to step out of my real life and do this, and I do it freely and of my own. But we're just asking for you guys to come together. Okay. So, yeah, I'm done.
So under the scope of what we're talking about, education, we've talked a lot about affidavits. Most people in the room don't understand what affidavits are. An affidavit is a form that you can file into a court that the judge can't even dismiss.
It's considered evidence once you file it.
Once you file it into evidence, and what it does is it compels the court to demand any party you file an affidavit against, including the judge. And you can make statements of this affidavit of truth. And you can make statements. In this case, the judge has not proven his oath of office, meaning his oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In this case, the opposing counsel has not proven their oath of office. Okay? And then get that established on the record, for the record, the way the court can hear it, so that if anybody reviews it, knows exactly what happened in that court. And that document will compel them to respond and prove that evidence in the court. And then if they don't respond, that affidavit becomes the lowest level of law because we are legislation. So then if it's not contested, then it's a statement or an affidavit of truth saying this did not happen in this courtroom. And if the judge does not prove his affirmation or oath of office, then he cannot preside over the case because he must be bonded in his truth to uphold the Constitution for we the people. So we have the authority to do these things. Well, the problem is we're not educated to understand how. And it's a great question, and that's what we're attempting to do. Get enough people aware of it so we can educate enough people that are willing to stand and understand how. And that's a great question, sir. How do we help each and everybody love thy neighbor, stand together, one nation, indivisible, under God? We are the authority, and we have the power, and we can take back our country. But we all have to know how to do it, or we can't. Divided we fall.
Thank you for having us.
Yes.
It's really an honor to be
I love you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here very much.
Just a quick note, Jerry, we love your fired up videos. You want to tell us what kind of coffee you drink, man?
Right now, we got some great Puerto Rican coffee that we're really enjoying. Thank you, Smarty.
A lot of people think that it's caffeine. Maybe a little bit's caffeine, but no.
It's the fire in our soul, man.
Yeah.
It is. You just know we got a fire in our soul that you can't put out because we know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, truth is something, and I'll put it to you the way that it was written in biblically, in Revelations. And when he comes, it will be with eyes of fire and tongues of swords. He may have came as a lamb, but the next time he comes back, he's going to be angry
Yeah.
for what we did to him. We all stood around and let him do it. We didn't stand for the truth then, so we've got a chance. Stand for truth now, because when he comes, it's going to be with eyes of fire.
Well, that's just how you came to us, dude.
That's why I love Jerry myself.
Yes, sir.
That's why I discussed that. I'm not in jail and I am not dead. And so I do work in trust law, private instruments and chambers, yes. And we have seen some success and we are waiting for the outcome of that. It's truly from what I understand. And we now there's 3 people that I know are working in trust law with this, and we are seeing success, and we have seen, I just can't talk about it, and I'm under an NDA.
Yeah.
So,
Public pressure is definitely growing,
Yeah.
and that's going to,
yeah, it's private law.
yeah,
so,
it's pushing a lot of these organizations, let's call them, to start questioning how much authority they really have and how far they can push us. So we're starting to see some things.
I'm going to miss
Thank you, Sue. I appreciate everything. Thank you,
Sue
guys.
says it's time, dude.
for
It's
being
time.
here.
We gotta go.
She's got to stay on her schedule. Love you guys. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. I mean, we need a whole weekend for the information that you're sharing.